Okay, Chief Medina's going to talk about, he'll lay it all out, but two different incidents that happened. One, we made some arrests last night that he's happy to talk about, and then the case last week with the 13-year-old offender. Go ahead, Chief.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here today. We just wanted to give an update on two recent homicides and updates on their cases that the Albuquerque Police Department has been involved in investigating. First off, we want to make sure that we get as much information and we bring justice to the families of Alana Gamboa and Sydney Wilson. Both of these young ladies' lives were cut short, and their lives were cut short by gun violence and individuals who prematurely took their lives for a variety of reasons. Happy to announce that last night, detectives from the Albuquerque Police Department took two subjects into custody, and they've been charged for the July 4th murder of Alana Gamboa, and we're far from completing that investigation. Officers are still in the process of obtaining further search warrants and furthering that investigation forward. The second case that we want to talk about is Sydney Wilson, and we want to put out some information. We know that there has been questions that have arisen reference the theft of her motor vehicle and the fact that she was killed trying to retrieve her motor vehicle. The Albuquerque Police Department, the officers of the Albuquerque Police Department were dispatched at least 3 times to assist in trying to locate the vehicle. We are providing a timeline of what occurred and how the officers were able to respond to those calls in a timely fashion, and how they were unable to locate the vehicle. There was approximately 28 hours from the initial theft of the motor vehicle to the shooting, and on the first day, I believe it was somewhere near in the neighborhood of 10 hours before the vehicle was noticed to be gone and actually reported to the Albuquerque Police Department. On the first day alone, officers were dispatched a total of 3 times, but were unable to locate the vehicle. There did seem to be some type of time delay between the actual vehicle's location getting to the owner and the information being updated as to the exact location of the vehicle. So 3 times the officers were unable to locate the vehicle. They did believe they saw it drive by at a high rate of speed at one point in time, but were not able to locate the vehicle or take anybody into custody. I think it's important that we get this information out and that we ensure that we have a clear understanding of what occurred and that we get this information out to the family. I'm going to be asking Violent Crimes to reach out to the family through our victims advocates and explain the timeline to the family of what occurred, to ensure that they know that our officers did respond, did attempt to locate the vehicle, and just were unsuccessful, as many times with time delays we're not able to take people we wish we could into custody, but just sometimes are unable to. So we're going to be reaching out, making sure that we share the exact timeline with the family and that they have an understanding. I do not want a wedge driven between our hardworking detectives and officers from the Albuquerque Police Department and community and a family that's in mourning. I think we've worked hard to increase community relations over the past years, and we want to make sure that we continue to be transparent and that we push out information as quickly as possible. We will look to see if there's different ways we could handle these situations where we have people that are tracking their own property, and how we're going to handle those in the near future. But as for now, this is where we stand. It's still very early in both of those processes, and hopefully we could be announcing more information later. The second thing I want to talk about is I just wanted to talk a little bit about some concerns that we have with certain entities within the city of Albuquerque. Sydney Wilson was killed trying to retrieve her stolen vehicle. Her stolen vehicle is a Hyundai. If you start doing research across this nation, law enforcement agencies and cities are taking action against Hyundai because they knew that their product could lead to the vehicle easily being stolen, and that it created community safety. The Albuquerque Police Department has, for several weeks, been working on determining if we are able to file against these auto dealers, as their 2 vehicles are responsible for 20% of the vehicles stolen within the city of Albuquerque. I believe all entities should be held accountable for the dangers that they create in the community. This is still very early in the process, but we will continue to work on developing the data we need to see if we could take legal action against these automobile industry companies going forward for the danger that they have created within the city of Albuquerque and the danger that they've brought to the citizens. A stolen motor vehicle doesn't just impact the victim whose car was stolen. Time and time again in this city, we have seen stolen motor vehicles kill innocent drivers who are driving down the roadway as these individuals are either fleeing other crimes or fleeing law enforcement in that stolen motor vehicle. So that's the first incident we wanted to talk about. And the second has to do with Walgreens. There's been a lot of controversy. We've seen a lot of videos pop up on social media. I'm here to say it is not the responsibility of the Albuquerque Police Department and the taxpayers of the city of Albuquerque to put an officer at every single Walgreens that sells alcohol. Walgreens has to take ownership for their store, for their product, and they have to develop processes which help ensure that their alcohol is not being stolen and that it is not compounding to a community issue or problem surrounding their locations. Later today or early on Monday, a letter will be going out from me to Walgreens listing a number of recommendations that we wish they would follow in order to help make the city of Albuquerque safe from some of the occurrences that are happening at these Walgreens locations. Quite simply, I believe that we're at a point where, number one, the Albuquerque Police Department does not control individuals who stay in custody or do not stay in custody. A lot of these incidents revolve around repeat offenders that have already been arrested and have been released outside of the control of the Albuquerque Police Department. So one of the big recommendations we're going to make is that Walgreens finds a way to secure their alcoholic products and that they ensure that they have safeguards in place so that people cannot simply grab alcohol, walk out of the store, and get in a vehicle and continue to do this over and over again. So like I said, the three big themes today is updates on 2 homicides to include a timeline of one of the homicides and the actions of the Albuquerque Police Department in terms of trying to recover that motor vehicle. Our issues with certain brands of vehicles and what the city is planning to do going forward and what we're researching. And number 3, our stance on one of our local retailers and how we're going to be asking them to help take accountability and be responsible for doing the type of business that is helping Albuquerque become a safer place and not making things worse. Is there any questions?
Yeah, you mentioned APD was unable to locate Ms. Wilson's vehicle. How was he able to locate it? Did she track it or kind of?
She had some kind of tracking device, and unfortunately the tracking device had some type of delay that we don't have all the details to. But many times we got the information that 20 minutes prior, for example, the vehicle's at such and such address. Officers would get there. On one circumstance, I'm told that officers may have said they saw the vehicle already leaving by the time they got there, but they were unable to locate the vehicle due to the time delay from the app to the actual vehicle location.
Yeah, and I guess when Ms. Wilson actually located the vehicle, did she contact APD as she was approaching the vehicle?
We do not have any information. I did not see any information, Gilbert, that said she had done it at that moment in time. I believe
in some cases she did, and in some cases the company out of Arizona that was had the tracking device was contacting APD. So it was multiple calls throughout the day from Ms. Wilson and from the company.
I believe the timeline will show the last report we had was at 4:53 call report. She just saw her vehicle pass. Her vehicle had no license plate, requesting officers attempt to locate the area. And that was at 4:53 p.m. and the shooting occurred at 8:48 p.m. So there still may be more information we're looking for, but that's the most current information we have at the time.
And I guess circling back to Gamboa's case and Wilson's case, kind of we see these teams now having guns. Kind of is APD doing anything to kind of reduce just gun use amongst teenagers?
You know, number one, and I stated this to some media outlets the other day, it is very difficult for the Albuquerque Police Department to go out and enforce individuals who are 13 years old and carrying a firearm. Like, for us to flag those individuals, we're working on it, we'll see them, but like a 13-year-old killing somebody with a firearm is something that we need to look to as a society. We need to make sure that we are creating an environment where kids can grow up safely, where kids have the right resources, where we can do everything to help them succeed. and that there are safeguards in place to flag that something's occurring and that something's going on. Those are extremely difficult because they're such a young age, but yes, the Albuquerque Police Department continues to crack down on violence associated with firearms. We have several units. We have VIP. We actually have a VIP project that occurs at West Mesa High School late last year, and we'll be looking to expand it in the years to come. We're specifically focusing on younger individuals in high school environments, and we're even looking to see if we need to expand this to the middle schools. We've talked about it in depth over the last 6 months amongst department leadership, and like I stated, the project at West Mesa High School is already moving forward and has been established, and we hope to continue to grow that throughout the city as the needs of other high schools are rising. We have the resources to be able to do that.
You mentioned 2 vehicles, Hyundai, what was the other?
Kia.
And then kind of, it seems, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems kind of like you're placing the blame a little bit on these vehicle dealerships and kind of Walgreens. Kind of, shouldn't like APD maybe do more to patrol kind of these areas or kind of known areas to kind of prevent, vehicles from being stolen or people from stealing alcohol from business?
I think I was very direct at the front end when I stated it is not the responsibility of the Albuquerque Police Department or the taxpayers of the Albuquerque metro area to pay for an officer to stay at these locations and to provide security. There are many businesses. There are more businesses in the city of Albuquerque than there are officers. And there are businesses that can take actions to help safeguard their product, to help ensure that their product is put in a way that prevents individuals from walking out. A lot of industries are getting very creative. I recently went to a Ross store to see some of the changes that had occurred after being alerted about them. And I was quite impressed with some of the changes they made. I don't think it's going to eliminate every bit of crime, but they now have somebody who checks you into the store. You walk in, they open the door, the guy greets you, lets you in. Looked like a maze coming out of the door. It wasn't as easy as just simply loading up your backpack and walking out of the location.
So essentially you're leaving it up to the businesses to kind of, I guess, handle their own, thefts.
We're not leaving it up to them to handle their own thefts. We're leaving it up to them to ensure that they are putting policies in place, they have procedures in place, and that they work to ensure that their products are as safe as possible.
Yeah, it's up to Chief Wilson. In this particular incident with this particular Walgreens, where the teen stole the liquor, officers did respond to that theft, and they talked to the individual, and the individual was assaulted by one of the individuals. The officer talked to the personnel at Walgreens, suggested, because they didn't have a loss prevention person there, expressed that they should probably get more cameras outside, and he did offer to get APD to put a camera trailer there like we got at a different Walgreens. So the department's constantly working with businesses, including Walgreens, and if there's solutions we can make, we have crime scene prevention specialists who work with them. So we are working with them, and a lot of other stores work very well with us. For some reason, Walgreens is refusing to make simple, I think, solutions, or take appropriate steps, especially to curb the theft of alcohol.
I did notice there was a mobile unit there at that Walgreens now, kind of just like a surveillance camera. Kind of, is that helping deter crime?
It helps deter, it helps us also solve crime. We know that cameras assisted us, technology has been big on us, and it's a good example of how, like Gilbert stated, we are working with businesses, but we also need businesses to take bigger steps forward and to also assist in certain fashions when they can.
You mentioned that you were going to be sending a letter with recommendations. Are we able to know what kind of recommendations?
We'll release the letter at a later time, but one of the things that I think they should take into consideration is that there are certain Walgreens locations where they should control the exchange of alcohol with whoever's purchasing the alcohol. Very simple, put a counter, you let individuals order off a list and at the counter, and then they bring them the alcohol and they give it to them directly so nobody has access to just fill up their backpack and walk outside of the store.
Yeah, Chief, you mentioned that all these things with Walgreens and other stores, a lot of these stores have policies with the employees not to intervene, not to touch, not to do anything. And so how is APD going to help protect those people against those crimes? Because what we see is small businesses, they don't have the infrastructure of Walgreens or whatever to do all these, and then they just get frustrated and close.
I think it's first important to recognize that we are dealing with a large corporate company, Walgreens. We're very specific in how we said we are sending a letter to Walgreens, a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar industry company across the United States, and we're trying to help them in the means that we're giving them advice that would reduce the ability of their individuals having to have conflict and would respect what they're asking their employees to do. They're asking their employees not to intervene. We're asking them not to put their employees in a situation where they could be injured because they choose to outside of policy or they get stuck in a tough situation. By simply cutting off the alcohol supply and making sure that the person who orders it is then brought their order of alcohol to the counter, eliminates the ease in stealing the alcohol, protects the employee from having to intervene, and at the same time creates a safer environment all the way. So to me, our recommendation answers exactly what was asked. Is it's a win-win for both corporate and for the community.
Did I mention also the Commander Hartsock's efforts, shoplifting and...
We started a 45-day operation this Monday, focusing organized retail crime and shoplifting, and by Monday we'll have you some results from the first week on this operation and everything that we're doing to work on getting some of our prolific shoplifters into custody and holding them accountable. Yes.
You sort of speak on it, but what approach should someone take when their car is stolen? Is there obviously this person went behind them and tried to track it down, but what is the right or correct approach?
I think one of the biggest things that we advised Mrs. Wilson in this case, and we've advised citizens in other cases, is you don't know the state of mind that somebody is in who has stolen your motor vehicle. And they are dangerous individuals. We have literally had officers shot at and involved in deadly force incidents involving stolen motor vehicles. And we truly want to remind the public that if our officers are endangered by these individuals with all the equipment and training and the uniform that they wear displaying their authority to do this, these individuals will have no problem hurting an everyday citizen who doesn't have the means to protect themselves. I know it is frustrating for a community member to lose their motor vehicle. It sometimes could be life-changing for them, as that car is a key piece of their livelihood and able to get to work, get home. But your life is worth more than that. And we do our best to recover vehicles. We've done a lot of work since 2017 in reducing auto theft numbers in Albuquerque. But you need to recognize that there is a danger in that, and you have to let the police do the actions, as frustrating it may be, and allow us to be the ones who attempt to take these individuals into custody. Es muy importante que las personas que tienen los carros robados, que ellos no quieren pescar la persona que robó el carro, porque muchas veces estas personas tienen una arma y pueden hacer algo o pueden matar a la persona que es el dueño del carro. Yes, sir.
Can you clarify the two brands of vehicles that you said were responsible for 20% of the auto theft in the city? I heard you say Hyundai, but I think you said Kia.
Honda and Kia.
Kia?
Yeah.
And can you talk to me about, I know there's any communication between APD and those brands, because I know there's like a
No.
USB that the people are using.
No, we are in the process of developing our response. We've been working on it for probably, I would say, 2 months in trying to work on sending legal documentation to them as to the fact that the city is exploring our options because of their failures to manufacture. We're not the only city. There's other cities who've already done this across the country, and we're following suit.
Any advice for those Hyundai and Kia owners?
You know what? I was 2010-11. I was lieutenant in charge of property crimes, and the one thing I always try to remind the public is layers. Layer your property and layer your protection. I have a 2004 F-250 diesel pickup truck, and people love to steal that model year Ford diesel pickup trucks. I have my truck parked. It has an alarm. It has a steering wheel lock, and prior to my dog passing away, it was parked in front of a gate where my dog would alert me if somebody was in the vehicle. So layers of protection, and the number one layer of protection to start with is a steering wheel lock of some type on your vehicle.
And lastly, I'm sorry, can you talk about the discipline that people are getting for these catch and grab for these alcohol? I know they're at gas stations and also Walgreens. We talked about the criminal aspect of that.
You know, unfortunately, a lot of time, these cases are misdemeanor crimes. Lowest levels of crimes that we see within the city of Albuquerque. I want to commend the state legislature for their work this last session. We are now allowed to combine misdemeanor crimes to charge somebody with a felony, and I'm hoping that can make a difference with these prolific shoplifters in the future. But in the recent past, they were individual cases, generally misdemeanors, and I don't think I need to explain to this group, given their experience with the criminal justice system, that misdemeanors is just something that we don't gain a lot of traction with in the court system.
So if you catch someone stealing and you find out they've stolen more money, that could go for a misdemeanor too.
We can now add up the amounts to reach a felony level on shoplifting.
And then circling back to the Gamboa case, the 14-year-old Lorenzo Lovato, I guess he was under supervised probation. Can you elaborate a little bit on kind of what conditions those were?
I don't have all the details to that. I was made aware that he was taken into custody sometime about 10. Ken, do you have any information on that?
What he was on probation for, I don't have those exact details. I can make sure that we get those out to you, but we were working with JPO for him and making sure that we had the information that we needed in order to take him to custody this morning along with another individual.
And then the other 13-year-old for the Sidney Wilson case, that one he's been arrested in.
Yes.
And of course, you know, the law states kind of once you're 21, you're out. So kind of what message do you have for these teens who are, you know, committing these crimes?
You know what? 13 to 21 is still 7 years. And if you're 13 years old and you need to recognize that that's a big block in your life. That's your young adult. And it will change your life drastically forever. You know, and I think there's also a component in here in adults. You know, we've seen it in northern Mexico, my home county. We saw it last week. Was like, as adults, we have to be very cautious in the storing of our firearms and the access that youth may have to our firearms. I think both of these cases, we're still looking to recover firearms. Time and time again, we see firearms falling in the hands of youth. And I think it was County Commissioner Casadas once, Pope explained it best. Stephen Michael. He once said, people can argue and say, I've taught my kids firearm safety, but his words still stick in my mind. He said, did you teach your kids to go through their first breakup? Did you teach your kids to go through their first issue of depression? Did you teach your kids a certain lot of other things? So it's not about firearm safety. This isn't about firearms. This is about keeping firearms out of the hands of kids who shouldn't possess them to begin with. And number two, about making sure that that we do everything we can to not allow them to be in a situation that escalates into some type of violent crime that affects them forever.
And back to the Gamboa case, like you said, there's 2 suspects in custody right now. Is there a warrant out for a 3rd suspect?
Detectives are still working on the case. We still have more investigation that can go forward. They just were interviewing people last night and through the morning, so I haven't gotten an update, but there always is the possibility that somebody could be mentioned that would widen our view of the case and could lead to further suspects.
Any questions? Thank you.
All right, you guys have a safe day. Still a